I don't care who you think you are. You need to leave my store right now." The words echoed through polished marble walls like a slap sharp. Public. Humiliating. Diana Mitchell stood frozen, a black woman in a navy blazer, in the very store she built from nothing. The Beverly Hills flagship of luminous designs. Her name was on the lease. Her vision was in every spotlight, every velvet-lined case. But the manager, Patricia Whitman, didn't see a CEO. She saw a threat, a thief, an outsider. Patricia's voice rose again, louder this time. "Get out, or I'm calling the police." Customers turned. Phones came out. Whispers grew. But Diana didn't flinch. Her hands stopped trembling. She reached for her phone and said quietly, "Go ahead. Call them. But first, let me make my call." That call would change everything. Because Patricia had just tried to expel the founder, and in 5 minutes, every face in that store would learn who really didn't belong. Before we begin this true story of power, dignity, and consequences, comment where you're watching from and type respect if you believe every person deserves to be treated with dignity. The irony was so thick you could taste it. Diana Mitchell stood beneath the crystal chandelier she personally selected, in a building her company paid for in full, surrounded by the very jewelry she sketched by hand during nights of ramen and unpaid rent. This store wasn't just another luxury outlet on Rodeo Drive, it was her soul, in glass and gold. And Patricia Whitman had just tried to evict her from it. Diana didn't move, not when Patricia reached for her phone, not when 2 nearby shoppers whispered, "Is she really calling the cops?" Not even when the store security guard, Marcus, shifted uncertainly near the door. She simply stood there, staring at the Aurora collection, her crown jewel display like it was a reflection of her own dignity under assault. Inside her navy blazer was a bracelet, old, tarnished silver, gifted by her grandmother after Diana's first failed business. She touched it gently. Her pulse slowed. Her power returned. 5 minutes earlier. Diana had entered the store unannounced, like she always did when she visited one of her 47 locations. She'd parked her beat-up 2003 Honda Civic. Yes, still between 2 Bentleys. People had stared, as they always did. But Diana didn't care. The Civic reminded her who she was before the magazine covers and the red carpets. Before luminous designs became a $180 million empire. Her tradition was simple visit stores without warning. Walk in as a stranger. See what the customers saw. It wasn't surveillance. It was safeguarding her values. Because Diana knew firsthand what it felt like to be judged for not looking like a millionaire. So when she walked through the flagship doors that morning, she had no bodyguard, no designer purse, no appointment, just her eyes, her instincts, and a hope that her staff still lived the principles she'd built everything on. And at first, it was perfect. The lighting was warm. The classical music flowed through the space like silk. The jewelry sparkled in its cases exactly the way Diana designed it to. Except one thing caught her attention. The Aurora case, the centerpiece, was crooked by ½ an inch. She didn't mention it. She simply noted it like she always did because the details mattered. Then she approached the display, and Patricia approached her. "Hi there." Patricia's voice rang out sharp, overly cheerful. "Are you looking for something special?" The tone didn't match the words. It was smiling suspicion, a tone Diana knew well. Too polite to be genuine, too fake to be harmless. Still, Diana gave her the benefit of the doubt. "Yes, I'd love to see the Aurora collection. Patricia's eyes scanned Diana head to toe. Old car keys. Simple heels. No visible brand names. Unworthy. That was the judgment written all over Patricia's suddenly faltering smile. Oh, well, those start at $200,000, Patricia said, her voice shifting into gatekeeper mode. Diana nodded. That's fine. Another flicker of surprise on Patricia's face. And then her mistake. May I ask what the occasion is? She said, voice tight, hands clenching subtly. Diana blinked. Does it matter? That pause, just 2 seconds long, cracked the illusion of customer service completely. Still, Patricia begrudgingly unlocked the case, hovering like a security sensor, moving slowly as if to dare Diana to lose interest. Diana leaned in, her voice calm. This cut is exceptional. Colombian origin. Patricia blinked. Yes, and the prongs slightly uneven on the left clasp. Silence. Diana's expertise was disarming. Patricia didn't know what to do with it, because this wasn't just a browser. This was someone who knew craftsmanship, and that's when the real shift began. The door chimed. Mr. and Mrs. Blackstone entered regular customers, old Hollywood royalty, white, wealthy, and very visibly on brand. Patricia's eyes lit up. Her tone changed instantly. She didn't excuse herself. She simply abandoned Diana. And Diana stood alone, ignored, unacknowledged, invisible. The Aurora case opened beside her like an insult. From across the store, Diana heard Patricia say to the Blackstones, "Sorry for the delay. We get all kinds wandering in here." The words landed like acid on Diana's skin. All kinds. Ashley Chen, the young sales associate, watched it unfold with discomfort. She walked over. "Ma'am, can I help you with anything?" But Patricia shut it down from across the room. "Ashley, go organize the back inventory." Ashley flinched. Diana said quietly, "It's fine, dear. I'll wait." And wait. She did. For 15 long minutes. Diana watched Patricia offer champagne and undivided attention to the Blackstones, while she stood next to the Aurora display, invisible. Until she didn't wait anymore. She walked across the store, her heels clicking like a metronome of control, and said, "Excuse me, I'm still interested in the Aurora piece." Patricia turned, exasperated. "Maybe you'd be more comfortable in our fashion jewelry section." Then came the laugh, the demand for proof of funds, the open insult. "You don't even look like someone who can afford that." And finally, "Get out of here. You're probably trying to steal it." That's when Diana's hand moved to her phone, and her voice steady, powerful. Low sliced the room open. "I won't get out." Everyone turned. Ashley froze. Marcus stepped closer. Kevin, the assistant manager, looked up from the back office, eyes wide. And Patricia doubled down. She had no idea she was 5 minutes away from losing everything. For 5 full seconds. No one breathed. "I won't get out." Diana's voice was quiet, but it carried the force of a courtroom gavel. It was the kind of voice that ended debates, froze boardrooms, and rewrote rules. Patricia's smirk faltered. The tone had shifted. She was no longer dealing with someone she thought she could dismiss. And yet, she still didn't see it. She still didn't know. Not yet. Patricia crossed her arms. "Then I'll call the police," she snapped. "You're causing a disturbance." But Diana already had her phone in hand. And unlike Patricia's trembling fingers, Diana's hands were perfectly steady. "Call them," she said. But I'm making a different call. Ashley Chen stood frozen behind the counter. Her eyes darted between the two women. Kevin Torres, the assistant manager, appeared at the edge of the showroom floor, brows furrowed. He could feel the atmosphere thickening into something that couldn't be ignored. He hadn't yet recognized Diana, but her calmness made him pause. This wasn't just a difficult customer. This was something else. Patricia's voice rose, high-pitched and brittle. "You need to leave. Now." But Diana was already dialing. The ringtone echoed softly in the luxurious quiet. 1 ring, 2, and then Sarah. "It's Diana. Emergency board meeting. Now." The room shifted, like the first crack of thunder before a storm. Patricia blinked. "Board of who?" But Diana didn't answer her. Not yet. Her voice on the call was crisp, executive, practiced. "Yes, I'm at the Beverly Hills location." "Yes, that's correct." She didn't say store. She said location. That word choice alone sent chills down Kevin's spine. No customer uses location. That was ownership language. Ashley's phone buzzed. She had been Googling furiously. She stared at her screen, her jaw dropping open. She turned it to Kevin. A photo. A magazine cover. Diana Mitchell, CEO and founder of Luminous Designs. Kevin went pale. He looked across the showroom, at Patricia, at Diana. Then he looked down at the floor. They were in her store. Diana ended the call. She slid the phone into her purse with the calm grace of a surgeon putting away a scalpel. Then she looked up, and the entire room seemed to hold its breath. "Yes. Patricia, I'm calling my board, because you violated every standard I built this company on." Patricia blinked, stunned. "You. What?" Diana reached into her bag and pulled out a business card. Slowly, deliberately, like she wanted the room to watch. She held it out. 2 fingers. Patricia took it with a trembling hand. Read the name, Diana Mitchell, founder and Chief Executive Officer, Luminous Designs. Patricia gasped. The color drained from her face like wine soaking into carpet. "No, you can't be. I can't be what?" Patricia Diana asked, her voice cold steel. "Can't be rich. Can't be respected. Can't own the very store you tried to throw me out of." The room was silent. Phones were still recording. Customers wide-eyed. The Blackstones looked horrified. They weren't the stars anymore. They were background. Because this wasn't just a shopping trip. This was a live reckoning. Patricia's face crumpled. "I didn't know. I never meant." Diana cut her off. "You meant every word, every judgment, every assumption." Kevin stepped forward. "Ms. Mitchell, you tried to stop this," Diana said gently. "You saw what was happening." Kevin nodded, overwhelmed. And Ashley Diana turned. "You stepped in when no one else did. You treated me with the respect I give every customer who walks into these doors." Ashley teared up. Then Diana turned to Marcus. "You refused to follow an order that didn't feel right. That's integrity." Marcus nodded solemnly. "Ma'am, I've seen things before, but nothing like this." Diana turned back to Patricia. "And you?" Her voice hardened. "You're everything I built this company to stand against." Patricia's voice broke. "Please, I have a mortgage, a family." Diana didn't blink. "You should have thought of that before you humiliated someone in front of witnesses and cameras. You don't represent my brand. You don't belong here." "Please," Patricia whispered. now in tears. But Diana wasn't moved. She didn't yell. She didn't curse. She simply said, "You're fired. Clean out your desk." The word fired echoed through the store like thunder. Customers gasped. Phones caught it all. Even the music seemed to pause. Ashley's hands covered her mouth. Kevin stood ramrod straight, processing the fallout. Patricia collapsed into a chair ironically. One she'd offered to the Blackstones, but not to Diana. Diana exhaled. She turned to Kevin. "You're the new manager. To Ashley, assistant manager. To Marcus, a raise and a commendation. Effective immediately." And just like that, the tables turned. Because when you try to evict a queen from her own castle, she doesn't fight. She reclaims. Patricia Whitman remained frozen in the chair, mascara streaking down her cheeks, her perfectly pressed blazer now clinging to sweat-damp shoulders. The woman who just 15 minutes ago had spoken with the arrogance of royalty now looked like a statue of regret, crumbling, hollow, and exposed. Diana, meanwhile, stood tall, not triumphant, not smug, just steady, like a monument that had survived the storm. "Kevin," she said softly. The young assistant manager straightened. "Yes, Ms. Mitchell, I need you to call HR. Let them know Patricia Whitman is no longer employed. Effective immediately. Full termination. Breach of code. Ethics and public conduct." Kevin pulled out his phone with shaking fingers. "Right away. And afterward. I'd like you to retrieve the company handbook from the back office." Patricia's voice cracked. "Ms. Mitchell, please, don't ruin my life over one mistake." Diana turned her gaze toward her. Not cruel, just tired. "Patricia, what you did today wasn't a mistake. It was a pattern, a choice, a reflection of values you've been hiding behind pearls and policy. I didn't know who you were. You shouldn't need to know someone's title to treat them with respect." Ashley moved quietly to Diana's side. Her presence was like a reassurance that decency still had a place here. "I'm so sorry you went through that," Ashley said gently. "You deserve better." Diana looked at her. "You gave me better. And that's why you're getting promoted." Ashley blinked. "Me? Yes. You honored our values when it counted most." Ashley smiled, eyes brimming with tears. The other customers stood still, unsure of what to do. Some continued filming. Others whispered to each other in disbelief. A few looked ashamed, realizing they had watched injustice unfold and said nothing. But one man stepped forward. An older gentleman in a tailored gray suit. "Ms. Mitchell," he said respectfully, "I've shopped here for years. I watched what happened. And if no one says this, I will. What you did today was leadership, the kind I wish we saw more of." Diana nodded with gratitude. "Thank you. But today wasn't about leadership. It was about correction." Marcus, the security guard, stepped forward next. "Ma'am, do you want me to escort her out now?" Diana looked at Patricia, who was now quietly packing her belongings into a small cardboard box Kevin had brought her. "No," she said. "Let her walk out with whatever dignity she has left." Patricia looked up. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Truly, this time. I didn't mean to. I didn't realize." "You didn't care to," Diana replied. "You looked at me and saw less. And when you do that to someone who walks in here, you're doing it to every woman who ever walked into a store hoping to be seen." Kevin returned with the handbook and a new name tag. "New manager's badge," he said. extending it to Diana for approval. She glanced at it, his name, now framed in gold. "Congratulations," she said. Kevin nodded, humbled. "I'll earn it." Diana walked slowly to the Aurora display, the same one she had approached just before the incident began, the same one Patricia had guarded like a fortress. She leaned down and adjusted a diamond bracelet's angle by less than 2 degrees. Perfect. Then she turned to the gathered customers. "I apologize for the disruption," she said, voice smooth but firm. "This is not who we are, and this will never happen again." A young woman, maybe 19, lowered her phone and raised her hand like she was in class. "Ms. Mitchell, what would you say to someone who's been treated the same way but doesn't have the power you do?" The question was real, brave, honest. Diana smiled. "I'd say never forget that your worth doesn't depend on their recognition. You're valuable. You're not invisible. And you don't have to become CEO to claim your dignity. But if you do, make sure to come back for everyone they tried to erase." The applause was spontaneous, soft, but growing. Not clapping for spectacle, clapping for truth. Ashley turned to Diana and whispered, "You think this will make the news?" Diana chuckled softly. "It already has. The cameras are in their hands." She nodded toward the customers, still holding up their phones. "Let them record. Let the world see what justice looks like, not with rage, but with resolve." As Patricia gathered the last of her things, she paused at the door. Her voice broke once more. "You built something beautiful here." Diana didn't look away. "I did, and I intend to protect it from anyone who forgets what it's built on." Patricia nodded once and stepped into the California sunlight, jobless, humbled, and changed. Inside, Diana turned to her team. "We stay open. We serve every customer with the grace and respect they deserve. We rebuild stronger, because this company isn't built on diamonds." She held up her bracelet, old and worn. "It's built on values that don't tarnish." By 1:45, the sun outside Luminous Designs. Beverly Hills cast a brilliant sheen across the showroom windows, refracting light off diamonds that now shimmered beneath a different kind of clarity, the kind that only arrives after a storm. Inside, the store felt lighter, not just because Patricia was gone, but because truth had taken her place. Diana stood beside the Aurora display, the very collection she'd been denied access to just an hour ago. Her fingers traced the edge of the display glass, not searching for flaws in the cut or clarity, but reflecting every microaggression, every patronizing tone, every assumption layered under policy. It wasn't new. It was just the last time she would tolerate it. Kevin approached, clipboard in hand, clearly still adjusting to his new position. "Ms. Mitchell," he began. "Diana," she corrected gently. "Titles are earned, but we're a team now." He nodded, then handed her a sheet. "Termination form is filed. HR has removed Patricia's credentials from the system. Her name badge, store key, and credentials are secured. And the staff." Diana asked. "They're stunned, processing, but ready to work." Just then, Ashley appeared, holding a tray with 2 glasses of water and a single folded note. This came in from a customer who left quietly. She said. Diana unfolded the note. Handwritten, no name. "Today, I watched what grace under fire looks like. My daughter saw it too. She said she wants to be like you. Thank you for protecting what you built." Diana read it twice, then folded it slowly. "Put this in the guest book," she said. "We're not just selling jewelry. We're telling stories." Back in the lounge, Marcus checked the camera system logs and printed footage timestamps. As security, his job was to protect assets, but he'd learned today that the most valuable assets were human dignity and leadership. He walked into Diana's office and set the report on her desk. All 5 cameras recorded the incident. Audio's clear. No gaps. "Do you want me to send it to legal?" Diana scanned the pages and nodded. "Yes. Archive it under training. Every new hire will watch this. Not as punishment, but as prevention." The news had already spread. A viral clip had reached 70,000 views in under an hour. The title was "Direct Black CEO Gets Kicked Out of Her Own Store, Then Fires the Racist Manager." Kevin looked nervous. "Should we try to get it taken down?" Diana shook her head. "Let it run. But it's raw. It could, Kevin." She interrupted. This company was built in raw spaces. It started in a flea market booth, next to a churro stand. We don't hide from what's uncomfortable. We grow through it. By mid-afternoon, emails poured in. Customers expressing support. Vendors offering congratulations. Press requests. Social media tags. One message stood out. It came from the CEO of another luxury brand. "Thank you for setting the standard. We just reviewed our own hiring protocols after watching your video. You inspired accountability." Diana smiled. The ripple effect had begun. In the showroom, Ashley and Kevin worked together, seamlessly greeting customers, adjusting displays, even reorganizing Patricia's cluttered desk. "I always felt watched under her," Ashley admitted, "like I was one wrong sentence from being benched." "You were," Kevin said honestly. "So was I." Ashley turned to him. "Think we can actually lead this store now?" Kevin looked out over the sparkling showroom and said, "We're not leading a store." He glanced at Diana through the glass office wall. "We're defending a vision." Diana stepped out to the center of the store. She raised her voice, not loudly, but with confidence. "Team, can I have everyone's attention?" Employees and customers alike turned. We all witnessed something today. But let me be clear, this wasn't a moment of shame. It was a moment of correction. And correction, done right, becomes culture. The room held still. I didn't fire Patricia because she embarrassed me. Diana continued. I fired her because she forgot who we serve. That can't happen again. Not here. Not anywhere. Ashley raised a hand. What do we tell new hires from now on? Diana smiled. You tell them every customer is someone's legacy in progress. Treat them like it's yours. A man who had been pretending to browse walked forward. He held out a checkbook. I saw how you handled today. I'd like to commission a custom necklace for my daughter's college graduation. Budget's $400. Ashley gasped. Diana took the checkbook, didn't flinch, and passed it back. No need for advance payments. Come back tomorrow. Ashley will assist you personally. The man blinked. You're trusting a young associate with that. Diana nodded. She's not just a young associate. She's my future. And that was the moment. It was clear this wasn't about jewelry. This was about justice wrapped in gold. A quiet revolution glittering from glass cases across America, and the CEO who refused to let it tarnish. The store had calmed, but the air remained charged like static before lightning strikes twice. At 3:12 p.m., the glass front door chimed again. Everyone instinctively glanced up. In stepped a sharply dressed woman in a cream pantsuit. red-soled heels clicking against the marble tile. Her posture was upright, and her face unreadable behind oversized sunglasses. She walked straight to the counter, ignoring the displays, the murmurs, the elegance, and placed a small velvet box on the glass. "I need to return this," she said. Ashley, still riding the emotional wave of her promotion, stepped forward. "Of course. May I ask why?" The woman slowly removed her sunglasses, and Diana's breath caught. It was Celine Cortez. A reality TV star, fashion entrepreneur, and longtime brand ambassador for Luminous Designs. The same woman who had worn the Aurora earrings to the Met Gala last spring. Ashley froze. Kevin blinked. Even Marcus's eyes narrowed slightly. Because Celine Cortez didn't do returns. She sent assistants. She sent stylists. She never showed up herself. Until now. "I saw the video," Celine said. Voice measured. "I was out to lunch when it hit my inbox. Watched it. Cried. Sat in my car for 10 minutes. Then came here." She slid the velvet box toward Diana. "I don't want to wear this until I know your brand will never tolerate people like her again." Gasps rippled quietly across the room. Diana didn't reach for the box. Instead, she studied Celine's face. A face she'd seen on magazine covers, commercials, even at a board meeting once. "What you saw today," Diana said slowly, "is everything I've worked my entire career to prevent. And yet, it still happened. In my own house." Celine nodded. "I know. That's why I'm here. Not to shame you, but to ask what happens next." Diana took a breath. For a moment, she wasn't the CEO or the woman in control of a crisis. She was just Diana, a little girl raised by her grandmother in a rented Atlanta duplex who once sold handmade bracelets at yard sales. And she answered not with a press statement, but with truth. "What happens next," she said, "is we rebuild our training from the ground up. We review every store's hiring practices. We launch an equity audit across all 47 locations, and we do it publicly." Celine tilted her head. "Publicly, yes. Transparency isn't a threat, it's a promise." The velvet box still sat between them. Diana finally picked it up. She opened it. Inside were the original Aurora earrings, 2 radiant-cut diamonds, suspended like frozen stars. They caught the light and something else. Conviction. Diana looked back up. "I want you to keep these, but wear them only when you feel we've earned it." Celine blinked. "You'd give back a $110,000 piece without a PR spin." "This is not PR," Diana said softly. "This is repair." Celine smiled for the first time since walking in. She closed the box gently and tucked it into her bag. "Then I guess I'll wait. But when you do earn it back, I'll wear them on the biggest stage I can find." She turned to go, stopped at the door, and added, "Thank you for not covering this up." Ashley exhaled as the door clicked closed. "That could have gone so differently," she whispered. Diana nodded, but she wasn't here for jewelry. She came to see if we're worth her name. Just then, a young black girl entered with her mother. The girl, maybe 9 or 10, wore a plastic tiara and clutched a notebook with "My business ideas" scrawled on the front. The mother approached Ashley. "Excuse me, is this the store from the video?" Ashley smiled. "Yes, it is." The girl's eyes lit up. "Is the lady from the video here?" Ashley pointed to Diana. The girl ran up, beaming. "I want to be like you." Diana knelt. "What kind of store would you build?" she asked. The girl didn't hesitate. "A magic store. For everyone." Diana smiled. "That's what I'm trying to do too." She turned to Ashley. "Find her something from the Dreamers collection." "On me." Ashley nodded. Right away, as the girl browsed. Diana walked back to her office, closed the door, and looked out the glass wall. The storm had passed, but the rebuilding had only begun. She took a notepad and began writing a memo. Effective immediately. All Luminous staff will undergo immersive bias training. New evaluations will prioritize empathy over image, and every leader will answer to more than sales, they will answer to our mission. She stopped, then added, because no diamond shines in the dark. By 6:45, it wasn't just Rodeo Drive buzzing. Diana Mitchell's confrontation video had crossed 1.2 million views on multiple platforms. Reddit threads dissected every facial twitch. TikTok teens turned her one-liner. "You don't need to know my title to treat me with respect" into a trending sound. CNN ran the headline, "Black CEO expels racist store manager in her own flagship jewelry store." But with the applause came something else. The backlash. The first hit came from a former franchise partner. A statement on LinkedIn read, "Diversity is important, but public humiliation isn't leadership. There are better ways to handle internal issues." Then came the trolls. On Twitter, anonymous accounts claimed Diana staged the incident for clout. One even posted, "Why didn't she dress like a CEO if she wanted CEO respect?" Kevin stood in Diana's office, tablet in hand, scrolling. "Should I activate our PR team?" Diana leaned back in her chair. "No. Let it breathe." Kevin blinked. "Really?" She nodded. "When truth walks into the room, it doesn't need a press release. It needs silence so people can listen." Marcus knocked on the doorframe. "You've got visitors. Customers. No. Reporters." Diana sighed. "Send them away. I'm not doing interviews tonight." But Marcus hesitated. "There's one you might want to see." Diana raised an eyebrow. Marcus stepped aside, and in walked Chloe Reynolds, investigative journalist for The Atlantic and one of Diana's oldest college friends. "Chloe," Diana said. Surprised. "I thought you were in London." "Red-eye. Landed this morning. Watched your clip in the Uber. Booked the next flight." They embraced. Ashley peeked around the corner. Starstruck. "You know the Chloe Reynolds?" Diana smiled. "Roommates at Spelman. She once edited my scholarship essay until I cried." They sat on the leather sofa in Diana's office. Chloe didn't record. Didn't pull out a notepad. She just said, "Tell me what the cameras didn't catch." And Diana told her everything. The display case. The laugh. The way Patricia offered chairs to the white couple but not to her. "I didn't explode," Diana said. "I didn't throw a tantrum. You didn't need to." Chloe replied, "You detonated the entire system quietly." They talked for an hour. When Chloe stood to leave, she asked one final question. "What do you hope people remember after the video fades?" Diana didn't even blink. That integrity has to show up when no one's looking. So when they finally do look, it's undeniable. Outside the store, 2 more reporters waited. Diana stepped out with Chloe beside her. "I won't be giving interviews tonight," she said. "But here's a statement." She handed them a single page. It read, "This company was built by someone who never looked like they belonged in luxury. So every store I build will make space for those who've been told they don't. If that threatens your tradition, re-examine your tradition." The reporters tried asking follow-ups. She smiled, nodded, and turned away. Because she knew the next headlines were already writing themselves, and she didn't need to type a single word. Inside, the girl from earlier was still there. She'd picked a necklace with a small amethyst stone and a charm that read, "Fearless." Ashley wrapped it in tissue paper and handed it over. The girl clutched it like it was a crown. "Thank you, Ms. Diana," she whispered. Diana knelt to her level. "Wear it like you already are what you're becoming." Later that night, Diana sat alone in her office. The store had closed. The floors gleamed. The lights dimmed. She pulled out the guest log, usually filled with generic compliments. But today's entries: "You made my daughter believe she belongs." Today wasn't about diamonds. It was about dignity. "Thank you for firing her. Thank you for hiring Hope." She touched her grandmother's bracelet again. Not to adjust it, just to feel it. To remember the hands that gave it to her, the same hands that once told her, "Don't just shine, baby. Outshine their expectations." And that's exactly what she had done. Not by yelling, not by threatening, but by holding her ground, in heels, in grace, in truth. And tomorrow, she'd return. Not as a CEO cleaning up a crisis, but as a woman reshaping an industry. One store, one voice, one unshakable moment at a time. At 8:03 the next morning, before most of Rodeo Drive had even unlocked its gates, Diana Mitchell arrived back at Luminous Designs, not with a security detail, not with press, not with stylists or image consultants. She pulled up in her battered 2003 Honda Civic, parked crooked in the loading zone, and stepped out wearing a simple navy suit and sneakers. She looked like any other early professional, which was precisely the point. Inside, Kevin had already turned on the lights. Ashley was prepping the front displays. Marcus stood at the entrance, posture tight but proud. Diana walked in, carrying a canvas bag filled with files and one simple sheet taped to the front Equity Audit Phase 1. She set the bag down on the manager's desk. "Good morning," she said. Kevin straightened. "Good morning. Ms. Diana? Status." Kevin cleared his throat. "Staff is arriving in 30-minute rotations. As requested. I pulled personnel files, sales performance reports, and last year's customer feedback logs. Good. I want full transparency from top to bottom. If there's another Patricia hiding in plain sight, I want to know before the next video tells me." Ashley approached. Nervous. I read something online. People are asking if you're going to sell the company or step back." Diana shook her head. "I'm not going anywhere. When your house leaks, you don't move. You fix the roof." Ashley nodded. "And if it rains again," Diana smiled. "Then I'll stand in it until it passes." They moved into the conference room. Laid out were files, survey printouts, and 2 flat screens showing live analytics of every store in the chain. Sales dips, return rates, customer satisfaction spikes. "Do we know?" Diana asked. "If Patricia's attitude was isolated or normalized?" Kevin grimaced. "Depends how deep we're willing to look." "We're going to the foundation," Diana said. "Dig up every seed, not just the weeds." She clicked open the first file. Store 19, Chicago, North Avenue. Customer complaint summary. Saleswoman asked if I was in the wrong store. Security followed me to the earring section. Employee told me, "These are probably out of your budget." Diana's fingers tightened on the page. Ashley whispered, "It's almost word for word what Patricia said to you." Diana nodded. This is not a Patricia problem. It's a system problem. Across the country, every Luminous-designed store manager received the same memo that morning: mandatory 14-day bias review audit, anonymous employee feedback collection, customer experience evaluations, top-down accountability. Non-compliance will result in termination. There was no press release, no campaign. Diana didn't need to announce the cleanup. She was the cleanup. By 10:15 a.m., the first Zoom call of the day began. 30 store managers, many visibly nervous. "Good morning," Diana greeted them. "Let's begin." One hand raised Colleen, the manager from the San Diego store. "Ma'am, are we being punished?" Diana shook her head. "You're being trusted with the truth." She asked each manager to share one experience where they witnessed bias either from a customer or team member and didn't intervene. The silence was thick. Then came a voice. Eduardo from Miami. "A man told my sales associate she was too ethnic to help him. I escorted her away instead of confronting him. I thought I was protecting her." Diana nodded. "You weren't. You were protecting him from discomfort." Eduardo nodded, ashamed. Another hand, Priya from Seattle. "I once told an applicant that we needed a cleaner look for front of house. I meant uniformed. But I didn't question what I really meant." Diana met her gaze through the screen. "Interrogate your intent, then examine your impact." Kevin took notes. Ashley sat beside him, absorbing everything. She whispered, "I've never seen anyone run a company like this." Kevin whispered back, "She's not running it. She's rewriting it." After the call, Diana closed her laptop and looked at the stack of feedback already coming in. Most anonymous. One read, "Our manager jokes that certain types can't afford real diamonds. He says it with a laugh, but it doesn't feel funny anymore. Another thank you for showing us what courage looks like. We're ready to rise to the challenge." Ashley knocked gently. "Ma'am." "There's someone here to see you." Diana looked up. "A customer?" "No, a former employee. Says she used to work at the New Jersey store. She's visiting LA and saw the news. Says she has something you should hear." Diana stepped out into the showroom. A woman stood near the Aurora display, late 30s, soft curls, slight limp. She smiled gently. "Ms. Mitchell, you don't remember me, do you?" Diana squinted. "No, I was the first employee you ever hired. Mall kiosk in Trenton. You trained me on how to hold the bracelet under the light." Diana gasped. Lucinda nodded, teary-eyed. "I came to say thank you for finally doing what we all hoped someone would do when no one believed us." They embraced, and in that hug, decades folded in on themselves, past, present, pain, and progress. Because this wasn't just a reckoning. It was a renaissance. One forged not in anger, but in clarity. By noon, Diana had shut her office door and stood at the long mirror in the corner. She wasn't looking at her reflection for flaws. She was looking at her posture, her stance, because this next meeting wouldn't be about analytics or HR protocols. It would be about memory, legacy, confronting the ghost of every door she'd ever been turned away from. At exactly 12:15 p.m., 4 women entered the flagship store, none of them current employees. They were former store managers, former partners, and former friends. Diana called them the Council of Remembrance. Not officially, of course, but in her mind, they were the women who had once stood beside her in the trenches before the brand was a brand, before anyone took them seriously. They had seen it all, the wins, the slights, The stores that refused to lease to a black woman. And most importantly, the cracks she'd ignored. "Miriam," Diana said as she embraced the eldest. Still using that cane, Miriam grinned, only to hit bigots. The room chuckled. Diana gestured for them to sit around the conference table. They didn't need small talk. They came for war stories. And truth. "I watched the video 3 times, said Joy, the youngest. "I cried all 3. You should have fired that manager with fireworks," said Anita. "Hell, I would have walked her out with a marching band." Diana raised her hand. "No revenge fantasies today. This isn't about her. It's about us." She pulled out the audit findings from the last 24 hours. Discrepancies in 4 locations. Customer profiling at 3. 1 complaint where a security guard was praised for protecting a white customer's handbag but ignored a black mother who asked for help. And every one of those locations had once been trained by her. That's the part that cuts deep. Diana confessed. "I didn't just build the system. I trained it." Miriam leaned forward. "No, baby. You built a house. Some folks chose to rot the floorboards while you were upstairs fixing the roof." Joy nodded. "And now you've come down the stairs with a flashlight." They went around the table, each woman sharing their story. Joy, who once had a VP tell her she should smile more because she was intimidating to customers. Anita, who was offered a backroom promotion just to keep her out of sight. Miriam, who had to change her name on business cards from Lakeisha to Marie before clients stopped canceling meetings. Each woman's story was another nail pulled from the company's foundation. And Diana wrote each one down. Ashley stood outside the door, listening, not eavesdropping, learning. Because this wasn't just a meeting, it was a reckoning with roots. Inside, Anita asked the question no one had dared yet. "Diana, you ever think about selling?" The table went quiet. Diana stared at her notebook. "No," she said finally. "Not because I haven't been offered, but because if I walk away now, I hand the keys to people who didn't earn the house." Kevin knocked gently and peeked in. "Apologies, our vendors are requesting a call. They want to know how to align with our new ethics overhaul." Diana turned to the women. "You mind joining me for that?" Miriam grinned. "Let's give them something to remember." They joined Diana on the call, each of them sharing their perspective with the vendor reps. Joy said, "Don't just say you support diversity. Show us your leadership team," Miriam said. "You want to sell in our stores. Train your people like we train ours or stay home," Anita added. "Don't ask us to be inclusive and then send brochures with only white models in them." Diana closed the call by saying, "Moving forward, we don't partner with companies who treat equity like a checkbox. It's not a checklist. It's a covenant." When the call ended, Kevin leaned over to Ashley and whispered, "Did we just rewrite the supply chain?" Ashley whispered back, "No, we just reclaimed it." After the council departed, each woman hugged Diana tightly. "You made us proud today," Miriam said, tears in her eyes. Diana whispered back, "You made me possible." That evening, Diana sat alone again at the Aurora display. The light from the case reflected off a bracelet she'd designed but never sold. One etched with 5 names, hers, Miriam's, Joy's, Anita's, and 1 space left blank. "For whoever rises next," she whispered. Because every woman who stood up today was standing on the shoulders of another. By 6:45 p.m. Yeah, the store felt quiet again. Not empty, just settled. Diana stood at the center of the showroom, beneath the recessed ceiling lights. She had designed herself a pattern mimicking constellations. She called it the sky that raised me. Tonight, it didn't sparkle. It glowed, steady, soft, like the hush before a hymn. In the corner of the store, Ashley quietly adjusted the final row of velvet necklace stands. Across the room, Marcus polished the brass frame of the front door for the 4th time, and Kevin sat behind the counter reviewing onboarding protocols with fresh eyes, rewriting the same phrase over and over. Appearance should never determine access. Diana finally sat on the bench in front of the Aurora collection, the very seat Patricia once withheld from her. She didn't cry. She didn't smile. She just breathed. Because today had been one long exhale of a burden she hadn't realized she'd been carrying for 23 years. Then the front door opened. Not with a chime, not with a flourish, but gently. A woman stepped in. 60s, gray curls, denim jacket, tennis shoes, no jewelry. She looked like someone visiting from out of town, or someone simply drawn to beauty without pretense. She walked straight up to Diana and whispered. "Are you her?" Diana stood slowly. "Depends who you mean." The woman's eyes welled. "You're the one in the video. The one who didn't yell. The one who made them see." Diana nodded once. The woman reached into her pocket and pulled out an envelope. "This is for you," she said. "You saved my daughter." Diana unfolded the note. Inside was a photo. A young black girl in a graduation gown, holding a certificate that read, Gemological Institute of America. The girl wore no makeup. Her smile was hesitant, like she hadn't yet realized she belonged in that cap and gown, and she wore a single necklace from the Dreamers collection. "My daughter used to work here," the woman explained. "Under Patricia. She quit last year. Said it was like being told every day she was invisible." Diana looked up, shaken. "I never met her," the woman continued. "But when your story aired, she cried and said, 'Mom, now I believe I can go back.' She's enrolling again. Wants to reapply." Diana touched the photo gently, a reminder that leadership didn't always come with applause. Sometimes, it came with a photo in a wrinkled envelope of a life almost lost to doubt, now pulled back by hope. The woman turned to go, but paused. "People think silence is weakness," she said. "But what you showed them," Diana finished the sentence, "is that silence can also be power." After the woman left, Diana didn't go back to her office. She didn't retreat to her desk or her reports. She stayed there, in the middle of the store, seated where customers could see her, where employees could see her, where the next young girl who wandered in would see her and know what a CEO looked like when she chose to be still. Ashley came over with a folded apron. "I know it's late, but would you teach me how to read diamond clarity like you do?" Diana smiled, accepting the apron. "Of course." Together, they walked over to the microscope, and in the gentle buzz of the closing hour, Diana whispered, "Clarity's not just about light, it's about history." Ashley looked puzzled. Diana explained, "A diamond forms under pressure, but what survives isn't just the carbon, it's every crack it didn't let ruin it." And as Ashley leaned in, the store behind them kept glowing, not for the customers, but for the lesson. That power doesn't always raise its voice. Sometimes, it refuses to move. At precisely 9:00 the next morning, Diana Mitchell entered a boardroom lined with suits and silence. The air was cold, the lighting clinical, This wasn't Rodeo Drive. This wasn't her showroom. This was the quarterly Luminous Designs Executive Board meeting, held in a private high-rise office overlooking Century City. Today, the marble table gleamed, but the tension was matte and unspoken. 13 board members, all successful, all cautious, and some of them visibly uncomfortable, not because of Patricia's firing, but because of the way it had been done. Viral, public, unapologetic. "Shall we begin?" Diana said, placing her leather-bound notebook on the table. Richard Holmstrom, CFO, cleared his throat. "Before we proceed with agenda items, some of us have concerns." Diana raised an eyebrow. "Concerns about racism." Richard flinched. "About process." He pushed a printout across the table, a compilation of press headlines. "Black CEO destroys manager in viral video." "Justice served at jewelry store." "CEO confronts racism." "Fires on the spot. Your decision to fire Patricia was correct." Richard began carefully, but the way it played out was less than discreet. Across the table, Victoria Tanaka, head of investor relations, leaned in. "We're fielding calls from high-profile clients. Some fear associating with a brand now seen as politically charged." Diana's hands didn't flinch, but her tone chilled. Politically charged, Victoria hesitated. Well, terms like bias audit, equity overhaul, they scare conservative buyers. Diana let the silence expand until it cracked. Then she spoke. "You're worried the brand is too black now. Nobody moved. Nobody denied it." So she continued. "We built this company on the idea that luxury could be inclusive, that elegance didn't require erasure. And now, after one public correction, one were too loud." A younger board member, Tanya Patel, finally spoke. "I disagree with them," she said. "If anything, this has made our brand relevant. My nieces are reposting the video. They've never stepped into a jewelry store before. Now they're begging to visit." Diana nodded. "And they should." She turned to Richard. "You don't sell clarity by hiding imperfections. You cut, polish, and let the light in." But Richard wasn't backing down. "I understand the moral stance, but from a fiscal perspective, Richard," Diana interrupted. "I didn't build a fiscal perspective. I built a legacy." She turned to the entire board. "If we alienate clients who think respect is optional, let them go." Gasps. Eyes darting. Diana Victoria began, but Diana held up a hand. "Let them go." She opened her notebook and passed around a single-page memo. Effective immediately. All Luminous board members are required to attend a 6-week equity and inclusion training. Failure to complete the course will be treated as a breach of fiduciary responsibility. Richard's jaw dropped. "You can't, I can," Diana said. "And I did. Article 6.2 of the Founding Charter gives me final say on internal cultural policy." She tapped the table. "I wrote the charter. Remember." For the first time in the meeting, no one responded. Even the walls seemed to listen. Because legacy doesn't raise its voice. It just refuses to blink. Diana stood. "This brand will be known not just for diamonds, but for who we become under pressure." She gathered her folder. "I have stores to visit." And without another word, she left the boardroom full of power and walked back into the world she'd shaped with grit, silence, and fire. In the hallway, Tanya caught up with her. "Diana, that was unforgettable." Diana smiled. "Good, because we're not just selling jewelry anymore." Tanya asked, What are we selling then? Diana turned. Courage. And it looks good in every light. By late afternoon. Diana had returned to her personal design studio, an unassuming glass-walled loft above the Santa Monica warehouse. Here, there were no chandeliers, no velvet-lined displays, just raw materials, loose stones, uncut metals, sketches yellowed with time, and silence, save for the scratch of her pencil sketching the next limited collection, Resilience. She was mid-stroke on an emerald setting when her assistant, Lauren, buzzed in over intercom. There's a call from Charles. He says you'll want to take it. Diana frowned. Charles. As in Charles Iverson, the CEO of Eternel, their biggest competitor. Put him through, she said, standing slowly. The speaker crackled. Diana. Charles's voice came smooth and practiced. What a week you've had. Spare me the small talk, Diana replied. You didn't call to trade headlines. Charles chuckled lightly. Always sharp. I respect that. There was a pause. Then I'd like to make a proposal. Diana raised an eyebrow. Charles continued. Eternel is launching a new urban luxury division. We're looking for a face, a partner, someone, authentic, a black woman who understands elegance with edge. You, Diana? Silence. You want me to partner with you? She asked flatly. Charles didn't flinch. Let's be honest. Your board is skittish. You're polarizing right now. Join us. Co-lead this initiative. We'll fund it. Promote it. Let you design the whole line. You won't have to carry the weight alone anymore. It sounded tempting. No audits. No bureaucracy. No internal politics. But also, no ownership. And Diana Mitchell had never been someone else's face. She was the fire. What would happen to Luminous, she asked. We'd buy majority stake. Keep the brand alive. You'd still be involved. Publicly. There it was. Not a partnership. A takeover. Wrapped in velvet. Let me be clear, Diana said slowly. You're asking me to sell the house I built so I can rent a room in yours. Diana, no. Let me finish. She walked to her window, looking out at the city where her journey began. I don't need another ladder. I'm busy fixing the ceiling I crashed through. Charles's voice sharpened. This isn't personal. It's business. You're bleeding support. Your board is divided. Diana turned back to the speaker. And you're bleeding relevance. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Because while you're designing collections for country clubs and yacht galas, I'm building sanctuaries for women who were told luxury was never for them. Charles fell silent. Finally, he muttered. You'll regret this. No, Diana said softly, but you might. She ended the call. Minutes later. Lauren entered, holding a gift box. This just arrived from Charles's office. Diana opened it. Inside a diamond brooch, shaped like a phoenix. Impeccable quality. And a note. In case you change your mind. See. Diana lifted the brooch, admired the craftsmanship, then dropped it into the waste bin. Ashley knocked. Everything okay? Diana smiled. Better than okay. Ashley noticed the discarded brooch. Was that real? Technically, Diana said, but real value isn't about sparkle. It's about purpose. Kevin arrived a moment later with a document. The updated equity training syllabus. Legal approved it. Diana scanned it. Looks good. Add this. She scribbled on the last page. Respect is the entry fee. Integrity is the currency. They were interrupted by another knock. This time, it was a courier. Large envelope. Diana opened it. Inside, a cease and desist letter from a national luxury chain accusing Luminous Designs of defaming the industry by implying systemic discrimination. Diana laughed. Actually laughed. Ashley read over her shoulder. They're scared. Diana nodded. Good. That means we're visible. She taped the letter to her wall next to sketches of her new collection, because every threat only sharpened her vision. That evening, she hosted a private staff meeting. No press, no shareholders, just 27 employees, from janitors to jewelers, gathered in the Beverly Hills store. She stood at the center and said, "I've been offered a way out, a comfortable one, with press releases and champagne and photo ops." She held up the cease and desist. "I chose this instead." She paused, then continued, "Because if your dignity makes people uncomfortable, you're not the problem." They are. Ashley clapped first, then Kevin, then everyone. And beneath those constellations in the ceiling, Diana Mitchell didn't just reject an empire, she reignited her own. 3 days later, at exactly 7 Soorm p.m., the Luminous Designs flagship store transformed into something it had never been before. A classroom, a salon, a stage for power wrapped in elegance. There was no red carpet, no celebrity photographers, just folding chairs, hand-poured candles, and velvet trays filled not with diamonds, but with notebooks and pens. Diana Mitchell called it the Elegant Rebellion, a live evening series for employees, clients, and community members where jewelry wasn't sold, but justice was shaped. The theme tonight, Style Has No Skin Tone. Ashley stood near the wine station, passing out glasses of sparkling cider. Kevin adjusted the AV system, running slides Diana had designed herself. A black girl wearing pearl studs beside the words, "This is what excellence looks like." A white teen in a hijab captioned, "This is what luxury includes." A trans man holding his husband's hand while wearing a diamond band. "This is who we design for." The store filled with women from every background, teenagers, mothers, artists, bankers, some in couture, others in sneakers, all of them seen. Because tonight, there were no velvet ropes, no assumptions, no Patricia Whitmans at the door deciding who belonged. Diana had burned the rule book and rewritten the invitation. At 7:15 sharp, Diana emerged from the back office not in a power suit, but in a simple black jumpsuit and the tarnished bracelet she always wore. She didn't use a mic. She didn't need one. When Diana spoke, Rooms leaned forward. "Thank you for being here," she began. "And thank you for refusing to shrink yourself to fit someone else's definition of elegance." The crowd murmured softly, in agreement. Diana smiled. "I built this brand because I was tired of being followed through luxury stores. Judged, silenced, told I didn't look like someone who could afford to belong." She paused, and then someone tried to throw me out of a store I owned. Gasps. Nods. Diana continued. I could have screamed. I could have fired her behind closed doors. But if she had the audacity to humiliate me in public, then I had the responsibility to correct her in public. More nods. Applause now. But Diana raised a hand. This isn't about revenge. It's about rewriting expectations. She turned and clicked the screen behind her. An image appeared, a teenage black girl sitting at a design table, her hands stained with graphite, her eyes fixed on a sketch of a necklace. The caption, Diana, age 16. The room hushed. "I never wanted to be rich," Diana said. "I wanted to be respected. And when the world refused to offer it, I learned to take it. Not with shouting, but with results." She stepped forward. "Elegance isn't about price tags. It's about posture. And tonight, I want you to remember this." She gestured to every woman in the room. "If you walked in here thinking you had to prove your worth, let me remind you, you already did." The first row clapped, then the second, then the entire store stood in ovation. After the talk, women surrounded her. Some asked questions. Others shared stories. One young girl pulled out a sketchbook and said, "I want to design like you." Diana flipped through the pages, flawed, honest, brilliant. "You already do," she whispered. Kevin approached her with a text from corporate legal. "You're gonna want to see this." He turned the phone. A lawsuit. Patricia Whitman was suing Luminous Designs for defamation and wrongful termination. Diana read the claim, then nodded. "She's still trying to center herself in a story she no longer belongs in," Kevin asked. "Do we respond publicly?" "No," Diana said. "We respond with excellence." The next day, a new sign appeared on the flagship door: "Luxury without judgment, style without stereotypes." And beneath it, Diana's signature, literal and symbolic, a line drawn in ink and in fire. That evening, as Diana closed the store alone, she paused at the crooked display case. This time, she didn't straighten it. She left it just slightly tilted, because imperfection was proof something real had happened here. Shall I continue with part 14, 850 words? Banja noi, yes. ChatGPT, Jant noi, here is. Part 14, the viral tremor, 850 words. By the time Diana arrived at her office the next morning, the internet had already done what it always does: multiplied, amplified, exploded. What had begun as a silent confrontation in a jewelry store was now a global parable. "She owns the store" was trending in 14 countries. TikTok edits, duets, Instagram reels, celebrities reposting clips of Diana's calm voice, college professors dissecting the confrontation in ethics lectures, Black mothers using it as a lesson for their daughters, luxury magazines rewriting their op-eds overnight. But the real tremor hit at 9:12 a.m. That's when CNN aired a 4-minute segment titled, "When Grace Goes Viral, the Woman Who Fired Her Store Manager and Sparked a Movement." And for the first time since Luminous Designs' inception, Diana Mitchell's name wasn't just trending in fashion, it was trending in justice. Inside the office, Ashley sprinted in, holding her tablet. "Diana, it's time. You're on time." Diana blinked. What Ashley turned the screen. There, on the Time homepage, was a full-width image of Diana seated in her store, not in designer wear, not with diamonds, but in her Honda Civic. Caption: "The billionaire who drove herself to dignity." Kevin rushed in next. "Orders just tripled overnight. We're crashing. Web traffic's up 2,600%. Diana raised a brow. "And we can't keep up. The site's down. Phones won't stop ringing." And he paused, holding out a letter. "It's from the White House." Diana opened it. Official, sealed, presidential, an invitation to speak at the upcoming Leaders of Equity Summit in D.C. Ashley's jaw dropped. "They want you to open the summit." Diana stared at the letter, silent, processing. She whispered, I just wanted to correct one woman in one store. Kevin smiled. And now the world's correcting itself. But not all the attention was welcome. At 11:04 a.m., an email leaked. It was from a coalition of high-profile retail executives. Subject line: Mitchell's media moment is a threat to us all. The email accused Diana of creating a culture of paranoia across the industry, suggested that minor infractions were being blown out of proportion, worried that white leadership is now on the defensive. Diana didn't flinch. She printed the email, framed it, hung it in her office above a plaque that read, "When your existence becomes resistance. You're finally doing it right." Ashley asked, "Aren't you angry?" Diana shook her head. Angry, no. Anger is temporary. Structure is permanent. She tapped her desk. We're not building a moment. We're building an inheritance. At 12:30 p.m., the Beverly Hills store opened with a line around the block, customers waiting just to walk inside, to stand in the place where dignity had stood its ground. Kevin pulled Diana aside. You've got press waiting, board members arriving, and celebrities offering endorsements. Diana asked. What do the customers want? Necklaces. Mostly. No, she said. I mean, really. What are they looking for? Kevin thought, permission. Exactly. Diana said, they don't just want jewelry. They want to belong. So Diana stepped outside the store, stood before the crowd, and spoke not with a speech, but with an open door. Come in, she said. Whoever you are, however you look, whatever seat you were told you didn't deserve, come in anyway. And just like that, the velvet ropes vanished. The bouncers stopped checking appearance, and the store transformed again, not into a brand, but into a beacon. That evening, Diana stood by the Aurora display. A child approached, eyes wide. She pointed to the diamonds. Are those princess jewels? Diana smiled. No, baby. They're warrior jewels, because every piece in that case, every shimmer, every sparkle was no longer just a product of pressure and time. They were symbols of fire carried quietly, of injustice turned inside out, of a woman who didn't need to scream to set the world on fire. The next morning, Diana Mitchell walked into the store alone. No cameras, no applause, no viral surge, just the scent of lemon polish and the sound of her shoes on stone tile. Because before the next wave hit, she needed to feel the ground again, to touch the walls she built before they were lit by headlines. But power always echoes louder after silence. At 8:02 a.m., she got the call. Diana, it's Richard, said the CFO. You need to come in now. She didn't ask why. She already knew. At HQ. The boardroom lights were dimmer than usual. 7 board members sat stone-faced. 3 others joined by Zoom. Victoria Tanaka didn't meet Diana's eyes. Richard stood. We've received notice of a shareholder coalition preparing a no-confidence vote. Diana raised a brow. Based on what public behavior unbecoming of a CEO? Diana smiled. Define unbecoming. Richard handed her a document. Screenshots, tweets, blog posts calling her a social justice crusader, accusations of politicizing the brand. A conservative columnist wrote, Diana Mitchell weaponizes identity to bully a luxury industry built on class. Another article labeled her dangerously inspirational. She chuckled. That's the best insult I've had all year. Richard didn't laugh. They want to force a vote next week. Remove you. Install a less polarizing interim CEO. Victoria finally looked up. They're trying to protect the stock. Diana. Not hurt you. Diana closed the folder. No. They're trying to protect a version of the company that no longer exists. She stood and walked to the window. I built luminous designs with no loans, no legacy connections. I cleaned my own display cases, shipped inventory from my garage. I gave you growth. I gave you global relevance. And now, because I made you accountable, I'm a liability. No one answered, because silence is easier than courage. Diana turned back. I will not step down. Richard replied, If you won't resign, they'll make it hostile. Diana nodded slowly. Then let it be. I'd rather be fired for doing the right thing than kept for staying small. After the meeting, Diana went to her office. She didn't cry. She didn't rage. She wrote a letter, not a resignation, a manifesto. To all staff, clients, and communities we serve. If standing for inclusion costs me my title, so be it. If demanding accountability threatens your comfort, I welcome your discomfort. Luxury without ethics is just glitter on rot. This company will move forward with courage, or it won't move at all. Yours, Diana Mitchell. She clicked, send, and the tremor returned. Within 2 hours, employees began reposting her letter with the hashtag #CourageLooksLikeDiana. Clients followed. So did celebrities. And then quietly, but unmistakably, a single Fortune 500 CEO reposted it with just 3 words. I stand with her. By evening, the board's no confidence campaign had collapsed under public pressure. Richard withdrew the motion. Victoria emailed Diana a single line. They tried to fire a flame. It lit the sky instead. That night, Diana returned home, her Honda Civic still parked in the same spot, her grandmother's bracelet still by the door. She made herself tea, sat in silence, and for the first time in weeks, she let herself exhale. Because even power needs rest, and every revolution needs time to remember it's made of human hands. In the darkness, her phone buzzed once more. A message from Ashley. A photo of a necklace display in one of their stores in Atlanta. A little handwritten note beneath the glass read, Diana Mitchell wore this, and changed everything. The week after the boardroom coup attempt, Diana did something unexpected. She invited every store manager coast to coast to a single table. Not a Zoom call, not a memo. A real, physical, wooden table inside the Chicago flagship store. She called it the Legacy Table. No suits, no hierarchy, no titles at the door. Just people who carried her vision across glass counters and velvet trays invited to speak without fear. They came from Manhattan, from Dallas, from Oakland and Miami. They came curious, skeptical, grateful. Some were young, fresh off retail internships. Others had managed stores for decades, balancing customer demands with employee concerns. But none of them had ever been invited like this, and definitely not by the founder herself. At the head of the table sat Diana. No podium, no agenda, just a single prompt written on a whiteboard behind her. What does belonging look like in our stores? The room was silent at first, until a woman in her 50s named Rosa spoke. She managed the San Diego location. I've been here 12 years, Rosa said, and in all that time, I've never been asked what dignity looks like for our staff. Diana nodded. And what does it look like to you? Rosa smiled. Being trusted before being tested. A young manager from Detroit chimed in. Sometimes, when black or brown customers walk in, I can feel the shift in posture from new hires. They don't mean harm. They just weren't trained to expect brilliance in every color. Another added, and they weren't trained to interrupt disrespect either. Diana listened, took notes, never interrupted, because sometimes leadership meant making space, not taking it. A manager from Boston leaned forward. You know what would help, she asked. If every employee understood our founder looked like the people they're biased against. They see the ads, but they don't know the story. Heads nodded. Diana stood. I want every training packet to begin with it now. The whole story. She paused. Not because I want to be glorified, but because context protects values. When people know this company was born out of exclusion, they'll stop repeating it. After the session, she handed out envelopes. Each one held a personal letter she'd handwritten for every manager, not typed, not templated. Written by hand because dignity is personal. Inside each letter was a request. Find one policy that upholds exclusion. Then come back next month and help me rewrite it. The managers were stunned. One asked, You want us to rewrite policy? Diana smiled. I want you to build legacy with me. As the meeting ended, someone stood and clapped. Then another. Then all 42 managers were on their feet, clapping not just for her, but for the room she made, for the chair she pulled out, for the table she refused to sit at alone. Later that evening, Diana walked through the Chicago store alone. She paused at a display of modest silver bracelets. One was slightly tarnished. She picked it up, polished it with the cuff of her sleeve, and returned it to the velvet pillow. Because everything deserved to shine if you gave it time and touch. Her phone buzzed. A text from Kevin. 2 more major brands just launched diversity audits because of you. Also, we got invited to Harvard. Diana chuckled. Harvard. She thought back to the nights she'd read business case studies by flashlight, too broke to afford textbooks. And now she was becoming one. She turned the lights off, but left one spotlight glowing above the legacy table, so that anyone who passed by would see that justice wasn't a campaign. It was a seat. Waiting. 2 weeks after Diana's boardroom stand and the Legacy Table Summit, something unexpected happened. The bell above the Beverly Hills store chimed at 10:17 a. Ashley glanced up from the front desk and nearly dropped the velvet tray in her hands, standing in the doorway, tentative, fidgeting. Eyes wide with caution was Patricia Wittmann. Her designer blazer was gone. She wore a gray blouse, soft shoes, no makeup. Even her posture was different. Less vertical, more exposed. Ashley approached carefully. Can I help you? Patricia's voice was barely above a whisper. I'm not here to shop. Kevin had spotted her too. He stepped forward protectively. Ms. Wittmann, he said firmly. This is still a place of business. Patricia nodded. I understand. I won't stay long. She swallowed hard. I'd like to speak with Diana, just for 5 minutes. Kevin exchanged a glance with Ashley. Ashley said softly, She's in the back. I'll ask. She walked into Diana's office with shoulders tight, unsure what reaction she'd get. Diana was pouring tea. She's here, Ashley said. Diana didn't look up. Who, Patricia? Diana froze. Then, after a breath. Let her in. When Patricia entered the office, she paused like she wasn't sure where to stand. Diana gestured to the chair across from her. Sit. Patricia did, and for 5 long seconds, they just looked at each other, not as CEO and manager, not as victor and defeated, but as 2 women, with unfinished pages between them. I owe you more than an apology, Patricia began. Diana didn't speak. I didn't come for forgiveness. I came to explain. Diana raised an eyebrow. No explanations, she said. Just truth. Patricia exhaled. I grew up believing certain things. That luxury had a look. That customers had a profile. I didn't realize how deeply it ran until that day. Diana finally spoke. You humiliated me in my own store. Patricia nodded, eyes wet. I know. You tried to remove me from the business I built. I know. You judged me, then fired others for refusing to do the same. Tears rolled down Patricia's cheeks. I know. Diana leaned forward. Why now? Patricia opened her purse, pulled out a photo. A teenage girl, brown skin, braids, braces. My daughter, she said. She saw the video. She asked me if I hated people who looked like her. Patricia's voice cracked. I didn't have an answer. Diana stared at the photo. She deserves one. Patricia nodded. That's why I came. I've lost my job, my reputation, my standing. But I don't want to lose her too. Diana stood and walked to the window. She won't remember your job title, she said. She'll remember if you changed. Patricia stood, too. I'm volunteering at an equity center now. Unpaid. Starting over. She reached into her bag one last time. I made this. For her. But I want you to have it. She handed Diana a bracelet. Simple. Handmade. Twine and 2 tiny birthstones woven into a loop. One clear, one onyx. The white one's hers. The black one's mine. Diana turned it in her hand. I'm not giving you your job back. I don't expect it. I won't erase what you did. I wouldn't want you to. Diana looked her in the eye. But I hope your daughter grows up in a world where you're her lesson and her warning. Patricia nodded, then turned to leave. Before she reached the door, Diana said, Tell her. I hope she applies here one day. Patricia choked back a sob. Thank you. When she left, Ashley peeked into the office. You okay? Diana looked at the twine bracelet on her palm. I am now. She walked to the Aurora case and placed it next to the $350,000 necklace. Customers would ask why it was there. She would tell them, because value has nothing to do with price. That afternoon, a little girl in pigtails stared at the bracelet and asked, Is that real? Diana smiled. More than you know, because redemption isn't bought. It's built. And sometimes, it walks back through the same door it once slammed shut. 2 months after the incident, Luminous Designs unveiled something no jewelry house had ever done. A customer dignity charter, not a code of conduct, not a fine print policy, but a giant, framed declaration installed in every store, beside every velvet tray and every diamond pendant, and at the top of it, in bold luxury, begins with how we treat you. Diana didn't make the announcement at a press conference. She made it inside a local community center, in South Central Los Angeles, at a folding table next to a juice box stand. The room was filled with young girls. Most wore beaded braids or borrowed sneakers. Many had never even stepped inside a luxury store before. And that was the point. Diana stood before them, wearing her signature tarnished bracelet. "Luxury," she said, "isn't about what you can afford. It's about whether someone sees your worth before they see your wallet." One girl raised her hand. "But what if they never see it?" Diana smiled. "Then you build your own mirror." Back in Beverly Hills, the flagship store had changed. Subtle, but unmistakable. Sales associates now opened with, "Welcome. We're glad you're here." Not, "Can I help you?" Not, "Are you looking for something specific?" But you belong. New hires read Diana's story on day one. They toured the Room of Reckoning, a quiet back room with framed testimonials, video footage from that day, and a looped voiceover of Diana's confrontation. It wasn't punishment. It was remembrance. Because forgetting was how prejudice got comfortable again. Ashley now led weekly training sessions. Kevin implemented a bias reflection journal in each store. Marcus oversaw security, but now also trained new guards on the difference between protection and profiling. And in one particularly quiet moment, Diana stood inside the Chicago store's break room and noticed something scrawled on the whiteboard. "Policy Paxed Culture plus Courage." She didn't know who wrote it, but she left it there, in black marker, permanently. Meanwhile, competitors scrambled. One launched a diversity campaign with splashy billboards. Another invited influencers to post with hashtags like "inclusivity looks good." But customers weren't fooled, because no campaign could fake a culture. And while others advertised inclusion, Luminous lived it. Customer reviews exploded. So did recruitment. Young professionals from underrepresented communities applied in record numbers. One applicant wrote, "I'm not here for a job. I'm here to help build the world Diana Mitchell made." When Forbes interviewed Diana about the shift, she said, "I didn't create a policy. I exposed a blind spot. The truth was always there. I just refused to pretend it didn't hurt." A reporter asked, "What's your biggest regret?" Diana paused, then said, "That I ever thought staying quiet would make me safe." By spring, universities invited her to guest lecture. Fashion houses begged for collaborations. She declined most of them, because her focus wasn't noise. It was normalizing, making dignity so baked into her brand that it stopped being remarkable and just became expected. One evening, Diana returned to the Beverly Hills store after hours. It was empty, quiet, still. She walked to the Aurora collection, noticed one light flickering above it. She made a note to fix it, because even brilliance needs maintenance. Before leaving, she stopped by the manager's office, knocked once. Kevin looked up. He was reviewing a new hiring proposal. "You good?" she asked. He nodded. "Better than good." She smiled. "Then you're ready." "Ready for what?" "To open the Paris store." "You're heading it." Kevin froze, then stood. "Wait. You're giving me?" "I'm entrusting you." They shook hands, and for a moment, Kevin didn't just feel promoted, he felt believed in. Diana walked out into the California night, the breeze soft against her cheek. She passed by the now iconic sign etched in gold. "This store treats you like you matter, because you do." She paused, touched her bracelet, then whispered, "Let them all matter." Because leadership isn't a spotlight, it's a mirror, held up to a world still learning to see clearly. It was a quiet Sunday morning when Diana returned to where it all began. No entourage, no cameras, just her, a plain leather notebook, and a cup of jasmine tea. The Beverly Hills store stood just as it had months ago, gleaming glass, polished brass handles, and a history now burned into the DNA of every square foot. But today wasn't about PR or performance. Today was about closure. She entered through the side door, nodded to Marcus, who stood a little taller now. Walked past the Dreamers collection, where Ashley was mentoring 2 interns. Paused at the counter, where a new hire, a South Asian woman named Rena, welcomed an elderly black couple like they were royalty. Diana smiled. This was the company she had dreamed of. Kevin saw her and waved. He was training his replacement for the Beverly Hills store. His move to Paris was only 2 weeks away. "I'll join you in a minute," Diana said. And then she made her way to the back of the store, to the crooked display case. It was still slightly tilted, just as she'd left it. But this time, she reached out and slowly, carefully straightened it, with a firm hand and a steady eye, not to erase the past, but to honor it. She turned and found herself face to face with a teenage girl holding a clipboard. Nervous, awkward, definitely new. "Can I help you?" the girl stammered. Diana smiled gently. "No, thank you. I helped build this." The girl blinked. Then realization dawned. "You're her. You're Diana Mitchell." Diana nodded. The girl blushed. "Sorry. I didn't mean to be weird. This store changed my mom's life. After your video, she left a toxic job and started her own jewelry design line. I grew up watching her sketch designs on napkins. Now she has a booth at local markets." Diana's heart lifted. "What's her brand called?" "Tiny Titans. She says her daughters were the first." Diana chuckled. "Tell her I said she's already a giant." The girl hesitated. "Can I ask something?" "Of course. Was it scary that day?" When you stood up, Diana thought for a moment, then said, "It wasn't scary to stand up. It was scary to realize how long I'd stayed seated." Later, in the break room. Kevin joined her with 2 mugs of tea. He handed her one. "Before I go to Paris," he said, "I just want to say thank you." "For what?" "For seeing me. For promoting me before the rest of the world said I was ready." Diana looked at him. "I promoted you because you acted like a leader before the title caught up." He raised his mug. To crooked cases and corrected histories. They clinked after Kevin left. Diana took out her notebook. On the front, luminous A History in People. Inside, she began writing the final entry. Entry 204. The woman who didn't belong. She walked in quietly. She was judged immediately, but she didn't raise her voice. She raised the standard. At that moment, Ashley walked in, holding something behind her back. "What's that?" Diana asked. Ashley revealed it. A framed photo. The iconic still from the store security camera, Diana standing calmly across from Patricia. But under it, Ashley had added a quote. "When they tell you it's not your place, make it your legacy." Diana stared at the image. She didn't flinch, didn't cry. She just nodded. "Hang it near the front door." Ashley grinned. "Yes, ma'am." That evening, the staff gathered to close the store. Diana surprised them with pizza, music, and a quiet toast. She raised her glass and said, "To the ones who stay steady when the room gets loud. To the ones who lead without asking. To the ones who remember that grace is power." As they cleaned up, she walked outside one last time. The sun had dipped below the Los Angeles skyline, casting gold on the windows. She looked at the sign she had once installed with shaking hands. "We serve everyone, but we see you." Then she whispered to herself, "I built this so no one else would have to beg to belong." And with that, Diana Mitchell stepped into her car, started the engine, and drove into the quiet night. But she didn't leave empty. She left having rewritten the rules with poise, with fire, and with a bracelet older than most corporations. 3 years later, a girl named Layla pressed her face against the front glass of Luminous Design's newest store. It wasn't in Beverly Hills. It wasn't in Manhattan. It was in Detroit, right in the heart of a neighborhood that used to be forgotten. Now, its streets were lit with life, and in the center stood a jewelry store more radiant than any diamond inside. Layla tugged on her mother's sleeve. "Mama, can we go in?" Her mother hesitated. They weren't dressed fancy. She wore a worn-out hoodie. Layla had on beat-up sneakers. But the doorman smiled and opened the door with a quiet gesture. "Welcome," he said. "We're glad you're here." Inside, the floor shimmered with mosaic tiles, each one hand-laid by local artists. The walls displayed not just jewelry, but portraits. Photos of everyday women from every background, each one paired with a story. Above them, etched in gold on the ceiling, "Luxury is not appearance. It is acknowledgement." Layla's eyes grew wide. She paused at a display of bracelets, simple, delicate, handmade from reclaimed silver. "What's this one?" she asked. The associate smiled. "That's called the Founder's Thread, inspired by a bracelet our CEO wore when she built the company." Layla read the tag. Tarnished, strong, survived everything. In a nearby room, a documentary played on loop, footage of Diana Mitchell, standing in that Beverly Hills store, facing down discrimination without raising her voice. Her quote echoed through speakers. "True legacy isn't built in boardrooms. It's built in moments when you refuse to shrink." Back in Los Angeles, Diana stood on a quiet rooftop. She was older now, a little more silver in her hair, but her spirit hadn't dulled, it had sharpened. Beside her stood Ashley, now VP of Culture. Kevin had just returned from Paris, where the store's grand opening was being called a revolution in retail. Marcus ran global security and trained recruits in what he called bias interruption drills. Diana overlooked the skyline as dusk painted the sky. "How'd we get here?" Ashley asked. Diana answered without turning. We listened. She remembered every face. Patricia, broken and humbled. The young girl who asked, "What if they never see our worth?" Her own trembling hands the day she stood in her store and said, "I won't get out." Every confrontation, every headline, every crooked display case, they had all led to this. But Diana didn't see buildings when she looked out. She saw chairs, seats that were finally pulled out for those the world had told to stand. Ashley handed her a small velvet pouch. "Open it." Inside a new bracelet. Simple, polished, interlocked with 3 metals silver, gold, and blackened steel. On the inside, engraved in Diana's own handwriting, "You are not lucky to be here. You are deserving." Diana's eyes welled, but she smiled. "I guess we finally made it." Ashley shook her head. "No," she said. "You made us." That night, the company released one final campaign. Not a product launch, not a sale, just a video, black screen, then words. To the ones who are told they don't belong, make the seat, build the room, be the storm and the shelter. The last frame faded into Diana Mitchell walking through her store. No security, no cameras, just a woman with a bracelet and a legacy too strong to sell. Because when the world closed its doors to her, she built one with no lock at all. If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to catch more gripping stories like this. We share real moments, real lessons, real power. See you next time, and remember, grace is not weakness. It's the loudest kind of strength.